Hi guys, hi gang. It's Logan Clarke again from Global Pursuit Investigations. We're going to continue on our merry way here. A detective agency, a good detective agency, knows how to do things to get information in ways that that is not the normal way, and most people would never think of. The vast majority of people would never think of some of the things that you are trained as a private detective or a police undercover detective. Undercover work can accomplish things that seem like a very normal case, that someone would, to go follow someone, and you follow them around, and you go to a parking, they go to a parking garage, you sit outside, you see where they park. They go into the building. If you've got two people, or if you can find a place to park, you go in, you see what floor they go to, but you never really know what they're doing inside there. You're always kind of guessing, unless they go in and alone and walk out with a woman, then you know what they're doing in there. But we get other detective agents even that call us, and when they have a case that they can't get into the meat of the information. And undercover work is what I was weaned on. As I told in other stories, I was undercover at 18, 19 years old with Chrysler Motor Corporation in Hawaii, my very first job, when Mod Squad was on. But undercover work works in so many things. So after the Chrysler thing, I went off and moved and went to Southeast Asia and stuff, and had a jazz club. And that's when I was doing intelligence work. When I came back and I worked for another private detective agency, one of the first cases he gave me, I told him that I had worked this major undercover case. So the boss of the agency, his name was Zwanitzer, and everybody called him the Big Z, because nobody could pronounce his last name. Zwanitzer. It's called the Zwanitzer Group Investigations. Big Z is a legend. He was amazing. He taught probably 100 detectives, private investigators, and he was a great guy to work for. But he sent me to a case. A guy had 10 Dairy Queens. Dairy Queens were big then. This is in the 70s. And he had 10 franchises in Long Beach and Huntington Beach, California. And so my boss put me undercover, as a customer. And I would go to these 10 Dairy Queens, and I would buy hot dogs and hamburgers and malts, and it was a great job for somebody who was 21, 22 years old. And so I would go to each one of these, and you have to but being a customer, you're undercover, you can get to know the people behind. If you go back there, and I would go back 2, 3, 4 times a week. And it got to a point that I was there every day. This went on for weeks because of the 10 locations. And we didn't have a big enough agency that I worked at. Didn't have enough people to just fan out and do all 10 of them. So a group of us, and I actually got some of my friends together. Now, today the laws are different on who you can hire and stuff. And so there has to be real special ways to do things. But back in those days, I got a bunch of my friends together, and I said, hey, you guys want to, go eat hamburgers and malts and hot dogs? I'll cover all the expenses, and we want to catch these guys stealing, the guys that work there. So the girls and the guys that worked at Dairy Queen, they were all, school kids, our high school, the high school, or a little older. Maybe they were 19, 20 years old. They'd just gotten out of high school. And so our group, I taught these guys. I literally would bring them to my apartment, and I would teach them undercover work and what to look for and how to do this. And as long as I had one other person who was sort of like a director, is what we call them now, directors of teams, a team director, I could handle 20 or 30 people. So I would get about 10 friends together, and we'd pick out a couple of Dairy Queens and go and get stuff, and you would catch them. These kids were stealing about $200 to $300 a day, and these things were right across from the high school. So this place was swamped during lunchtime, before school, after school, everything. So they're $200 or $300 a day that they're stealing from this. Well, you multiply that by 10 franchises, and you're talking about $3,000 a day. And this is 1970, 1971. That's a lot of goddamn money. So this guy was really concerned, and he paid for a lengthy, really involved investigation. And we caught these kids as their friends would come up, and they'd get a hamburger and fries and a malt and a hot dog and a whole bunch of things, and the kid would ring up for a malt and a hamburger. And they would take money from other customers that weren't in on it, and they would take a $20 bill and get what the person ordered, and that $20 bill would go in their pocket. Well, there was all kinds of things that we would notice, and I told everybody what to be aware of and put all the notes down. But it was kind of comical, because we all would sit around and laugh and go, well, our big undercover case is Dairy Queen. But we busted a couple of kids in every single Dairy Queen. And it was usually a guy and a girl and another guy. That seemed to be the teams, almost like that they were working in these. But one guy and one girl would be a boyfriend, girlfriend. And then there would be the third wheel, the guy. So anyway, those are great cases. And that's the way you do undercover. We would use undercover in a whole bunch of stuff that we would do, and the laws were different back then. For an example, when I worked in Hawaii for the detective agency after the undercover work, we were doing an insurance case where a woman claimed that at work she had lost use of her right arm completely, and that it hurt and everything, and it really messed up her life. And she just sort of put her hand in her pocket. She couldn't do much with her right arm. And so she was getting money monthly because of this workman comp thing. And then she had a small part-time job that she could do but not make very much money at. So the insurance company suspected, I don't know why, but they suspected that the woman was faking it, that she was lying. And normally you sit outside of a place, and that's how we started. You sit outside the place, you're in a van with tinted windows, and you're filming and watching them come and go, and you're hoping that they'll do something with their hand or their arm or their hurt leg, or their back is really hurt. And there are millions of these cases across the United States. You have no idea the billions of dollars in insurance fraud and workman's comp. It's astronomical. We sat and we waited, and I was working with another detective, and he wasn't an undercover detective. So I'm sitting and we're waiting to get pictures of this woman. She comes out, she comes in, goes to work. Her arm is always, her pocket is in her belt or in her pocket in her pants or dress. So she would come in and come out, and after about 2 days, I said, look, this is bullshit. I said, let me go. I said, I'm going to go down. I told the guy, he was older than me, and I said, I'm going to take some money, and I'm going to go get a bunch of flowers, right? Some really nice flowers. And where she worked, they helped people out. I can't remember. I mean, I'm going back 50 years. But where she worked, she helped a lot of people. And so it wouldn't be unusual for her to get a thank you for somebody to send her flowers or something. So first thing I thought of was, I'll send her, a dozen roses. And then I thought about that for a second, and I went, no, she'll leave them on her desk. She won't, take them with her. So I thought, but she would a big teddy bear. So I went and I bought a dozen roses and a teddy bear. And most florist shops will have bears with them and stuff like that. But I made sure I got I don't know how many I had to go to find it, but I got a big teddy bear like this, and I knew that she would take that home, especially a woman. She's going to take and this person was 28 or 29 years old, something like that. So I sent that to her and made a card and just picked a name like Bob, just a real general name on there. And I knew there were so many people that she dealt with and that office dealt with that they wouldn't even think about, it's from one of our clients. So sure enough, she left the roses on her desk, and she took the teddy bear with her. And she comes walking out, and I'm telling the guy, I said, it works. And she had the teddy bear under her left arm, but then she goes up to the car, and she got to get the keys to the car. Now she has a dilemma, and she's usually pretty sharp at, making sure that she, if anybody is watching her, she keeps up the fake injury. So as she's at the car, she kind of looks around. She's got this teddy bear under this arm, and she looks around and she switches the teddy bear. Her hand comes out, grabs the teddy bear, puts it under this arm, and then gets the keys and gets them out, or whatever she was doing. She had to do this because of the damn teddy bear that was in her arms, and where her purse was, and where her keys were, and everything else. And she was moving this teddy bear around, grabbing the keys, open the door, shut the door, and open the back door, and chew the teddy bear in the back door. And we're filming all of this, and busted her, of course. She probably, in those days, I don't know how much trouble she would have gotten in 1970 or 71. They treat crime differently too nowadays. But anyway, you cannot do that today. Because and I'm real kind of back and forth on it, but you can't do that today because there's laws against it, and it's called entrapment, or but it's not. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, it's however the law works, you cannot do those things today. That catch them really easy. Sometimes you'll catch them and they go out and they'll be playing softball or hardball in the park, and they've got a terrible back injury, but it costs billions of dollars in fraud. Okay.